Hi everybody, welcome to Purpose People. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about connection, working with people and obviously networking. I want to introduce you James, who's the co-founder of Introbiz Bristol. He's one of the directors, and ideally he wants to tell us a little bit about his background, why he got into it, and ultimately encourage you to get connected with people of like mind and like heart. So welcome, James.
Welcome. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah. So James, I know you're a talker, but I also know you're a little bit nervous about going on the podcast. But once we get you going, I am sure we'll be fine.
I think for me, it's not having a plan, but
it's not having a plan. Well, the purpose of a plan is it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So we want a conversation. So James, tell us a little bit about your background. You know, what did you do when you left school? What did you want to be when you left school?
I think if I talk about it, especially with my kids now, that's probably a big issue when I left school because I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Everything was about rugby. I loved my sport then, and everything was watch rugby, play rugby.
Yeah.
And then when I left school, I actually went to Australia and played a season of rugby out there.
Okay. And what position did you play?
Prop, loose head prop.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, funny enough, before then, I was a scrum half up until the age of 17.
Right. Okay. So
then
changed your game.
Then moved in
to
the.
But you didn't get any cauliflower ears or anything like that.
Voided it slightly. I do tell the kids I did have one. I went to the doctors and had to have it sucked out. But
is that how they fix them?
Well, unless you're like one of the professionals who they just don't get it fixed, do they?
Yeah.
You see there he is. So.
Well, it's like Mick Tyndall had that nose, which is like halfway across his face, and he never changed it until he got married, obviously. But incredible. So from that perspective, so you didn't know what you wanted to do from school. So what did you fall into then?
I think if I look back before that, going back, up until the age of 13, 14, I probably really wanted to be an architect.
Okay.
You know, my mum's an artist. My dad's not officially an artist by title, but he's very good at drawing houses, always used to do pen and ink drawings. And I probably always drew, probably got quite I wouldn't say it now, but if I look back, I was probably quite arty. Loved sketching, loved drawing houses, was always in a notebook.
Yeah.
Because as I laugh with my kids, we didn't have, obviously, computerized stuff back then, unless you wanted to put a tape in and press play and things like that. So was always outside drawing and really wanted to be an architect. But I then stopped doing art at the age of 13, 14, partly because my mum didn't get on with the art teacher at school.
Yeah.
So I stopped, and I suppose there was something then that sort of almost cut that dream of being an architect.
Okay.
And then since then it was like, oh, what do I want to do? So just fell into stuff.
Yeah, and I've never known that about you because obviously we've known each other for many years, but I didn't know that was the underlying dream was to be or get into architecture.
And that's why you probably don't know it about me. I love cities. I love visiting cities, love architecture. You know, just going around here or the Cotswolds, things like that. It's just, yeah, love it.
So in terms of where you've spent the vast majority of your life, you're originally from Worcester?
Worcester, Upton-upon-Severn, just a little place. Yeah, been there all my life. My dad was born there as well. Many people think I'm from other places.
Yeah.
Probably I won't go into them, but probably every country on earth. So,
every country?
Well, you speak to my kids, they'll joke and say, Dad, I come back with a different story every time. So I was in Malta on my honeymoon and everybody was speaking to me in Maltese.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, no, Worcester, England.
Worcester, England. Yeah. And then you moved to Bristol.
Moved to Bristol in 1998. That makes me feel old.
Which is, you know, you got Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
Yeah. Famous
engineer / architect, I guess. And, you know, from your perspective, what drew you to Bristol, and what were you doing in Bristol? Were you just carrying on figuring out your career?
I think for me, to be honest, I was when the school I went to, everything was geared not to say you must go to uni, but it seemed like that. So I think I finished school. I knew I was going to go on a year out to Australia, and it was like when I come back, I suppose I need to go to university, and it was a bit like I didn't know what course to do. And I thought if I go to Bristol, still close enough to home, but far enough away. And a few of my friends had gone there already the year before, so I thought, well, good place. Yeah. And I like the city, to be honest. It was not big like London, but it was still a lot happening place.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so what did you study at uni?
Well, I didn't finish. I was doing real estate valuation management, which is another story. You know, I think now I look back, and I don't look back as a regret that I didn't finish uni. It's, it's a life lesson, isn't it? Everything's a life lesson.
Yeah.
And I look back, especially with kids coming to that age. Well, not coming to that age yet, but it is finding what you want to do. And I wasn't forced to go to uni. It's just I felt I had to go, and I jumped to the course, and I got into the course. It was all right, and maybe I shouldn't have done it. But then, I got into the party life, really. I was still playing rugby, but then was also enjoying life in Bristol as well, and got out the habit of actually doing the actual work.
Yeah, you've got an interesting story about posing as a international rugby player.
Yeah, that's a bit later. Yeah, that's in Cardiff.
Oh, okay, that's in Cardiff. All right.
Yeah, no, my friend from Australia, actually, who was over probably about 2001, he was working for Vodafone, and they were obviously sponsors of the Australian rugby team back then. And he invited me to Cardiff because the Australian team were playing in Cardiff against Wales. Actually, was it Wales or Barbados? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They were playing in Cardiff. And he said, come down. So we watched the game and then went out with the Australian rugby team. And they had free drinks, obviously. And I was then asked to sign autographs. People thought I was an Australian rugby player too. So I didn't say no, I wasn't.
Yeah. So I
was just signing autographs, and people were saying, will you come and join Bristol Rugby Club when you finish? I said, yeah, once I finish playing for them. So
yeah,
somebody's got an autograph now, and either like, who is this, or very disappointed that.
Me and my brother did it, and we went to watch Ocean Colour Scene at the Anson Rooms in Bristol. And we went to a curry house halfway down Park Street, if you know the geography of Bristol. So it's not too far from the student place. And I had my hair a bit like Liam Gallagher. Yeah, I used to have hair. And I don't know why. It was just the randomest thing. It says, oh, you look like a band. And I don't know if it was me or one of us said, yeah, we are. We're Ocean Colour Scene. And so we spent the entire evening signing autographs and posing pictures as Ocean Colour Scene. And we looked nothing like them. And yeah, it was great. People buying us drinks and all this sort of stuff. And you said there's people with signed autographs in their bedroom saying, oh, we met Ocean Colour. No, you didn't. You met me. I'm amazed. And yeah, so that's quite funny. Quite a funny story. So you went to, so you're now at Bristol and you've come out of university. So what did you do after making that decision?
Went back to Australia.
Again?
Yeah. So to be honest, and
why Australia? You got fascination, or
I just loved it. You know what? I went with my best mate at the time. Well, he's still best mate. Went to Australia after school, and just absolutely loved the place. The guy who works with Ryan probably can comment more. He's being most recent, but when I look back in '98, it was just brilliant. It was a brilliant lifestyle. When I played rugby then, I loved the rugby style there as well. Yeah. It was just hot, real good sort of team atmosphere. Not saying you don't get that here, but it's just something that caught me. And I've said this to my wife, and I said I probably should have stayed there. Not because I regret, and it's not. I've got the best things in my life now, meeting my wife and got my kids. But I just said at the time, I probably should have stayed. Okay, I should have made that jump of stay.
Do you think you'd ever do that in the future, possibly?
I don't know. I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy, and the kids are younger now. Probably a lot harder to get there now with my age. Yeah. I'm not saying it's ever gone. You never know what will happen, do you? But it's not something I focus on now. But yeah, going back to that story, I went in '98, and then I had such a pining to go back. I dropped out of uni, and then I went back 2 years later, and I was meant to go for 4 weeks. Well, that's what I told my mum anyway. I was going for 4 weeks. I ended up staying for 4 months.
Wow, okay.
And went to the Sydney Olympics. And yeah, it was a great time.
Interestingly, we've got a couple of, Andy has been on, and actually Jerry from Film Duo, and they were actually in Australia doing all the Olympic stuff. So it's amazing how things configure in terms of our podcast and the guests that we've had on. And my wife, she was telling a story when she was in Spain, and she had the same pining for the UK. What was it you missed most about the UK?
Do you know, it's probably family. I'm quite family orientated, really. I think if people know me, I'll do a lot for my family, very loyal to friends as well. So I think it was just, I need to get back for them.
Yeah.
And probably at the time, if I look back, and I don't regret it, but I was probably thinking more about that than about myself and what maybe I should do. Whether I should have taken the jump and just stayed, or at least stayed for a year and just seen how it had gone.
So one of the things, and obviously you going back home, coming back to the UK and whatever, you mentioned it's about family. And I think that was the thing that now I know you now and what you're doing now. There's that thing about people. You mentioned the word loyal. You like being around people and connecting with people and working with people. And I think as much as the architect stuff, I think you hit a zone when you work with people. That's what you enjoy most. And I think maybe you didn't find your people out in Australia, but you certainly had people back home because everywhere you go, you seem to connect with people.
No, predominantly, I think, the discussions we've had, about Introbiz and the connection agency, and obviously it's all about people and connecting people. And I think that's the biggest buzz I get, is speaking to people, hearing their story, getting to know them. Because very soon I meet people, and I think some people think I'm quiet, but as soon as I meet people, I'll be asking, what do you do? Where are you from? Yeah. And sometimes it may seem nosy. It's not. It's just I take an interest in where you're from, and I love to know about you and about your life. And then so that's you're back in Bristol. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but you ended up working for quite a large bank for a long while. I worked for AXA first.
Yeah, okay.
Which was in Bradley Stoke, which is no longer there. They're still a company, aren't they, in France, or you still see some of it around. But worked there. Sort of fell into the job, really. Mm-hmm. Again, probably still not knowing what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I could get by talking, so I'm working, and worked hard. I think after the first year, didn't work hard the first year, but then soon realised I need to do something with my life and actually work hard.
Buckle down.
In the job I was doing and did. And then from there worked, then worked at Lloyd's from after that. So Lloyd's Banking Group, as they are now.
Yeah. And so in terms of the people stuff, you got a heart for people. And I think, knowing your journey, which is a bit similar from mine, you made a decision to get more involved with a charity to be able to help people. Is that the main reason why you made that decision, to make more of an impact as opposed to, just earning a living? Was it?
It's that tough. It's that fine line, isn't it? In terms of, you need to make money.
Yeah.
But what do you love most? And I think, obviously my family, but I love people. I love seeing people doing well. And there's a lot of hurting people that out in the world where, obviously I can't, and it's something I've learned in the past 5 years since I've moved away from Bristol, you can't be there for everyone you used to be there for. Yeah. Especially working at the charity I was and being, working with people. That's something for the first year or so really hurt a lot, was that, I still wanted to speak to everyone and make sure everyone was okay. And when it's 50 odd people or more that we had in the one charity place we were at, you soon find you can't.
Yeah.
But it hurts because it's like, how are they doing? And then you hear some people not necessarily go off the rails, but you're just like, you want to be there for them.
Yeah.
And I think somebody said, you can't be there for everyone.
Yeah, I think that the thing that maybe filling in the missing gaps for you is that you work for a charity, it's a Christian charity, and you run essentially what they call is like a mini church campus for a good long while. And I know that you were loved by everybody there. And then obviously things came to an end and you moved away. And then there's that whole people connection thing where you worked with a lot of people, helped a lot of people, went the extra mile for a lot of people. And then you're now essentially moving back up to where you were originally from. And, I get that thing, as if your heart is for people and you're not around them, there's a problem for you because you are very people orientated.
Yeah, it's very different in the country too. I love the country. I think, I get a lot of my, what's the time? I think it sounds funny. I just love going down the wood and just
chopping wood.
Chopping wood. I wasn't going to say it, but, with the chainsaw, which, and cutting wood for the fire. But I get a lot of peace out of that, just your own quiet time. But on the other hand, you don't necessarily have the people as well. So, and as much as, got the family obviously and things like that around.
But it's that mix between
But
solitude.
It's that mix of sometimes Not that you're lonely. That's wrong to say you're lonely. It's, I suppose for me, I get that sometimes that buzz of being around people.
What would you say you are? Would you say you're an extrovert or an introvert?
It's funny you say that. I was talking to somebody on Friday that you do some of these, what are they called? Like tests?
Yeah, psychometric tests, yeah.
And one made sense to me because it was like I'm two different people. Because I'm very much, like I said, I like my own quiet time sometimes.
Yeah.
And people who know me, I sometimes like go away, give me a Netflix thing, be on my own. And I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But then on the other hand, like coming down to Bristol, coming to see you, seeing different people, I get a buzz. So I don't know, I'm probably in between. Whether people truly call me an introvert or an extrovert, I don't know. But then I can go, when I look back, I went to Australia on my own second time. First time I went with my mate, but I just flew out on my own, met my cousin and his wife in Darwin. So I've done some pretty extroverted things in terms of just go.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but I like my own space as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ollie from Humans will probably have a little more detail and stuff to say on. We'll speak to him. We're actually going to go to a Humans talk tonight, so we'll have a chat to Ollie about it because he's quite schooled up on this. But I think you do seem to feed off the energy of people around you, but essentially there's that element of having to recharge your batteries in solitude that you need. And
I think the danger is, you've got to be, for me personally, you've got to be careful because if you do feed off people, it's when people, if they're coming to you with their, this is going on, it can also get you down if you're not careful, if you don't keep that sort of clear, fine line of, I don't know, I suppose how you are, and not taking the other person's feelings on or their problems on, and that you're just there. And that's the only issue with me sometimes, is being careful not to
take everyone's pressure
and then you
on,
get angry and it's like...
Yeah. Maybe you get too involved occasionally.
No, I think you can do. You'd be
emotionally.
Like I said, the biggest thing, I suppose for me, and it's like I see it in my older son Ralphie now, is we don't like injustice. Mm-hmm. And, I know we can do wrong sometimes as well, but when you see injustice or you think it's injustice, maybe I can get quite wound up.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I see it with him now as well, so...
Well, the traits follow, don't they? They go down. So, going back to sort of like purpose and what we're talking about, I think there's this essence of you wanting to do something within architecture and exploring and getting out there. And yet there's this natural thing that is almost like a natural thing that comes out of you is you like talking to strangers and getting to know people and connecting. Mm. And speaking to Natalie, your wife, she just said, everywhere we go, James seems to know somebody. And that essentially now you've taken that and turned it into a full-time role, so to speak.
Well, yeah, it's with Introbiz, it's talking to people, best of both worlds.
Just tell us what Introbiz is, because not everyone knows.
Introbiz is, it's business networking, but it's a connection agency, really. And our role is to connect people to other people, isn't it? So, so that they can create better opportunities.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's, we'd create events where people connect. And that's probably one of the strengths is I remember, if you tell me obviously I know your creation, but you said, if I talked to you and you said your creation, your design agency, and then I was speaking to somebody else, I always pretty well remember, just naturally remember
what someone else does.
What somebody else has done. And I'll always be thinking. So you ask me, how do you connect? Don't know, I just do it.
And that's
I suppose it's talking to people.
And that's one of the things I teach with Heartset is that there are natural giftings that you have that often we don't play up to. So like you said, we go to school and we have this expectation that we've got to find a career because that's the right and responsible thing to do. But what we don't, and it's a sense of pursuit of money because we've got to pay the bills, but we don't stick around long enough or don't ask those deep enough questions to decide, what is it? Where's my natural leaning? Where's my natural gifting? So what you'll find is someone's really talented, let's say, connecting with people, and then they just do a job for money where they're not connecting with so many people and they become unhappy. And I think, certainly the last couple of roles that you've been involved with, people have been absolutely key to what you're doing, and particularly now with Introbiz, which plays to your strengths 100%.
No, definitely. And I think that's the most important thing, and that's what I want for my kids now. And if anything, like I said, I don't have regrets, but if I look back, I can help them without forcing them, but is to find what they want to do and find their strengths. And like ultimately you're saying is what they have a heart for.
Yeah. Because you got 3 boys.
4 boys.
4 boys, sorry. Yeah. Just arrived, right?
Well, 5 months ago.
5 months ago.
It goes quick.
5 months already?
Yeah.
Wow. So which one's most like you then?
I'd say probably Ralphie's very like me. He's the oldest.
Yeah.
We all get on very well, the boys, but I suppose we always have we're very close. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm not close to the others, and it's not that I favour him more than the others, but I suppose we've always got on. We wake up early to go and watch sport together, things like that. And he's very, if anybody knows me, I can be quite sensitive. Not necessarily that it's, it gets taken as weak, or it doesn't now. I think people are more understanding that it doesn't mean you're a weak person. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm quite sensitive. He's quite sensitive. But he's very against, injustice. So he'll get very angry if he thinks something's wrong.
Yeah.
Very similar to me. I think the others are probably more like Natalie.
Yeah. Yeah, because tell us a little bit what Natalie does, because obviously she's in the network.
Yeah, Natalie's on
business.
Maternity at the moment, obviously with the other child. But she's, I'm always very proud of her. I always speak up. But yeah, she's working for Farncombe Estate, which is hotel. They've got 3 hotels, and she's the reservations and a manager for Dormy House. Very good at what she does, but at the moment, she's maternity. And she does so much in the meantime, although actually she forgot how busy having a child was. So she was going to start her own little business on the side, little side hustle, just to keep a bit more money coming in, which is Fox Fusion Management, which is business management.
Yeah.
So helping, I suppose, PA stuff, but any sort of writing things that you may need help with your business and things like that. So
yeah. So obviously there's Natalie that's involved in events, and you're doing what you're doing, and obviously connecting with people. You seem to have surrounded yourself with people by having 4 kids as well.
Yeah, well, we always said we'd have 4 kids.
4?
So, yeah, we always said
not
4.
5?
No.
6?
No.
Is that it? It's 4, is it now?
Yeah, I think I'd be. Yeah, I can't say that. I was going to say I would be shot if I had.
So
no, it's 4. That's what we said.
4 is what you said.
Yeah, and not many people discuss that. And I advise people to, like, before getting married, we discuss how many kids. You know, and things like that. You probably need to discuss.
Yeah.
And we discussed, because if I'd said I don't want any kids, and then down the line Nat said you never said that, it'd be a big problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So we discussed from the start all those sort of things.
Yeah.
We had our 3rd, then we had a big gap, and then decided, shall we stick to it and
have another one? And then obviously we've got this long-term project potentially. 2 kids.
What's that? Oh,
yeah.
So our kids, Taylor and Tommy.
Yeah, my
I think
youngest,
they still like each other.
Yeah, we see where it goes. Hey,
so it was at our school. All these mums were like on WhatsApp. I'm not on the group because I'm not a mum, obviously. But they're all texting, going, "Oh, this one likes this one, and this one likes this one, but Tommy likes Taylor. We don't have a Taylor at the school." So he's always had eyes for Taylor.
Yeah, well, we'll see where it goes. You never know.
It'd be quite amazing if it did happen. But
known each other for so long. So in terms of like networking and connecting and stuff like that, what advice would you give to someone that has got a business and then looking to grow it? Where does networking come in for you?
I think for me, when you look at it, it's a trusted group or trusted community.
Yeah.
For us, like, we're meeting people, we know who they are, and, we can introduce you to, I suppose, like-minded people, but businesses that they want to grow as well. They're entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think because there's this common held belief that, I've got to spend all my money on advertising, I've got to spend all my money on, Facebook ads or Google ads or marketing. And I say, well, networking, if you're not networking, it's a long burn just to spend money on ads.
For me, and I think of it like this, is like, you can do all the marketing and things like that. but it still comes down to speaking to people, I think. And I've discovered this in the last few months, getting people for events is you do all the LinkedIns, people like it. But I think when you pick up the phone and actually speak to someone, and I know that's what you always say, just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
But I used to work for a catering company, and they've never actually paid for advertising or marketing. And probably for the last 40 years, it's only now they're starting to get quieter. They've probably done 2 weddings on a Saturday, 2 weddings on a Sunday over the summer, over the busy periods, with no advertising, just the power of, and I suppose ultimately it's networking. So they do a good job and somebody talks about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the power that you can get from coming to a group. I know sometimes people don't want to. It's like, oh, what's it about? But, and for us, it's not about me and you getting sales necessarily. It's about introducing somebody and seeing their business grow.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like pay it forward, isn't it? And then somebody will help that person. And
I think the biggest mistake people make when they do networking is they come into the room trying to do business in the room straight away. And it's not who's in the room, it's through the room. So that's the first thing. I'd also say the second thing is that your net worth is determined by your network. And that's because of the amount of conversations that you have. If you want more business, have more conversations. You can sit there and pray and expect stuff to land on your thing, but actually you're going to have to go and talk to people. Now, from a point of conversations, the more conversations you have, the more people know about you, as you said earlier on. People might remember you and then they'll be in another conversation with someone else and go, oh, I know them, you need to get involved. So for me, in terms of networking, it's 100% about the amount of conversations that you have. And the more conversations you have, just by definition, the more opportunities come as a result of it. And, conversely, there might be people that you talk to that you actually do want to do business with because they're very good at what they do. So you're not wasting money when you're looking for a new supplier. You're finding someone that you know. Yeah, so I think for me, networking is your one conversation from changing your life. I've had conversations with people where, through a series of conversations, I tell a story with Andy, a friend of mine. We've done a lot of work together. We were in a network together, and the way the network was structured is we were competition for each other. And what we did is we sat down, we had a conversation and said, look, how do we make this work? We don't want to compete, we'd rather complete each other. So what we did is we worked out that, look, he can major on the graphic design and I'll major on the web fulfillment. How that worked for us is that we won an art gallery client in London and took us everywhere. I mean, I ended up having a conversation with Thierry Henry for an hour in an art club, just the craziest stuff happening just based on a conversation. Now, we've got loads of business out of it, but we also had some amazing experiences from it just because we were willing to sit down and have a conversation rather than get, oh, I don't like the look of that person. And I think sometimes in business, we can see people in similar fields and almost be threatened by them rather than have the conversation.
I think if you have a conversation, you see the real person.
Yeah.
It's not scripted, which is funny, I suppose, like this, it's not scripted, but actually, so you see hopefully the real person. And again, I was speaking to somebody the other day, speak to a lot of people, where even with job interviews now, not saying everybody does this, but a lot of people are now going to where they just have a cup of tea and will have a chat.
Yep.
And then almost choose that person from that because they're seeing the real person instead of the old school, I don't know, do the answer this question, answer this question, answer this question, answer this question.
Well, it's an unnatural environment.
And it's unnatural. And I used to hate them and did very bad at them. But yeah, just have a chat, a lot better.
And you're right. It's like having conversations and having relationships is the best way to get business is relationships. And I think rather than it's a transactional thing, they also used to say this statement like business isn't personal. And I would say, no, that's completely wrong. So someone would do something really horrible and say, well, it's not personal, it's business. And I'm like, no, you completely missed the point. There's a human behind your activity. And so for me, business is personal. And if you're a networker, absolutely, business is personal because you need to get to know the person. And in getting to know the person, all kinds of amazing stuff happens. So for me, business is personal, 100%. And I think when you say business is not personal, you're trying to excuse your immoral behavior in a way.
Yeah, you're trying to excuse your behavior by saying that.
Yeah.
That it's just
not good.
Yeah, ignore it. But it's not right.
So what does the future hold then, Jimmy? For how do you see? Because you're obviously now back in amongst it in Bristol, the city of Bristol. That
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think I'd never say never about living there, but I love coming back. I think it's a great city now. Not that it wasn't great before. I just love the vibe. You walk around and there's so many different cafes and food places. You can tell where my heart is sometimes with restaurants and things like that. But it's just such a happening place.
Yep.
But in terms of doing the network and Introbiz, there's so many businesses.
We've got some great venues.
Great venues. So, yeah, the Village Hotel and Lexus Bristol.
Yeah.
So some great people already. And Flight Club, obviously, reviews. And
Yeah.
So,
and it's changed so much since pandemic, Bristol. I think that's one of there's places that I didn't even know existed, And as I said, we both live outside of Bristol, but, I don't mind travelling in to events and stuff like that because it's still...
Because I think, I left there 2017 and you walk around now and it's ridiculous how many different places there are and new hotels. I wouldn't realise they need so many hotels. But
what's your favourite place in Bristol?
Favourite place?
Yeah, favourite place. Restaurant?
Don't know if I have one. I love going down to the waterfront now.
The waterfront?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the waterfront.
Do you know what? I love coffee as well, so there's little coffee places around St Nick's Market.
Yeah?
I always love going around there.
Yeah.
Get my hair cut there still.
Yeah, you do. So, you haven't changed your hair, person.
No.
No.
Again, I'm loyal, so he's a great man. Turkish barber, does a real good job, cares for me, gets coffee, has done my kids since they could have haircuts.
Do your beard, hey?
Yeah, needs to do it again.
And do the massage stuff?
Don't necessarily do the ears. I don't know if I'm getting that old yet where they need to do the ears, but...
Our barber sets fire to our ears.
You're a bit older than me now.
Yeah, I know. I'm just making sure it's just, that's normal.
No, he actually did do it.
They set fire to my ears because...
It's a great experience, but they know how to care for people.
Yeah.
Like, they look after you. They do the wash, the shave. And like I said, when it was busy, he would buy everybody a coffee. And you think that's a lot out of a profit, considering they don't charge much.
But what they're invested in is the relationship.
Yeah. So he's invested in the relationship, and I've been going for 12 years.
And you won't go anywhere else, will you? As long as you're in the UK.
Only if it's desperation, and I haven't got down to Bristol. But
yeah,
I'll let it get really long because I want to go there. And I suppose that's where I'm loyal. Is I know he does a great job, and he's done all my kids. He knows my kids. He gets those lollipops, and great guy.
But that's the thing, right? So. You go into that place, you're invested in it, and that's what you like with people. There's once you connect with someone and get on with them, you remain their friend for a long time.
Yeah, and like coffee shops, a coffee shop around there, which is brilliant coffee. I just love it. But so yeah, Bristol. Do I have a favourite place? No, I find those sort of questions tough. It's like, what music do you like? I'm pretty eclectic, but so I find
what music do you like?
I like everything. Depends what mood I'm in, really.
Okay.
So I like everything from classical to rock, so to Nathan Logan.
Nathan Logan, yeah. He's good. He's written a few soundtracks. So, okay, where can people get in touch with you? How do they get in touch with you? How do they connect with you? LinkedIn? You on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn I use mostly now because I find I know you got other social media and people say you should get into TikTok and Reels and things like that, which I probably will aim to do at some point, but it's just a bit...
But it's a good...
It's not beyond me, but I mean, I've really got to get confidence to start doing that side of things and just doing off, what's real? What would you call a reel? It's just unscripted, just suddenly doing it. I think I'll just have to do it and have a go at it.
I think, connecting on LinkedIn as well. I think it's...
So I'm getting better with LinkedIn. It's thinking about stuff to write, really. That's the next thing I really need to start thinking about, blogs, stuff like that. But
you do a lot of DMing though, and
I do a lot of DMing, so it's successful. Connected with a lot of people. So through LinkedIn, email address, telephone number, So
the website is introbiz.co.uk.
Yep.
I think it's introbiz.co.uk/Bristol.
Yep.
From the Bristol arm, and run regular events once a month.
Once a month at the moment, I think. Yeah. Eventually we'd like to get to 2 a month.
Yeah.
But at the moment, one a month.
Yeah, so if there's any venues, please get in touch. We're always looking for new venues and new experiences. And I think that's the difference of what we're trying to achieve with Introbiz is essentially creating experiences for the business people rather than your standard. I mean, we did a breakfast a couple of weeks ago and we turned it into a connections exchange because it was just people left with something tangible.
And people loved it. Again, I keep saying about vibe or feeling, but yeah, it was really good. And people left saying it was a brilliant, style, or they really enjoyed the breakfast.
Okay. Well, James, it's been absolutely lovely having a chat. I'm sure you'll be back. And now you've done your first podcast. Well done.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
No worries. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.